"You're not going to believe what I saw last night." Mark's voice trembled as he recounted the events to his best friend, Jason. It was a typical summer evening in the quaint town of Hollow Creek. Mark, a young journalist with a penchant for the bizarre, had decided to explore the old, dilapidated mansion that stood sentinel at the edge of the woods, a place that had been shrouded in mystery and local legends for as long as anyone could remember. The sun was setting, casting long, eerie shadows across the overgrown lawn as he approached the towering gates. That had once been a majestic entrance. The air grew thick with the scent of decaying foliage, and a sense of foreboding filled him as he stepped through the archway. The mansion itself was a monstrosity of a building, with ivy climbing the cracked, crumbling walls, and vines wrapping around the gnarled, twisted branches of the trees that loomed over it. The windows were like the vacant sockets of a skull, staring blindly into the night. Despite the warmth of the day, the mansion exuded a palpable chill that seemed to cling to him like a cold, damp shroud. Mark shivered and rubbed his arms, trying to convince himself that it was just his imagination playing tricks on him. He had come here to gather material for a book he was writing on the town's history, and he wasn't about to let a few creepy vibes deter him from his mission. Armed with nothing more than a flashlight and a digital voice recorder, Mark cautiously made his way through the mansion's ground floor. The place had clearly been abandoned for decades, with dust-covered furniture and peeling wallpaper hinting at the grandeur it must have once possessed. His heart hammered in his chest with every creak of the floorboards beneath his feet, but he pushed on, driven by a journalist's curiosity and a thrill-seeker's adrenaline. Mark's breath caught in his throat. He had read about the mansion's dark past, the grisly tales of the family who had once lived there, the unsolved disappearances, the whispers of madness and ritual sacrifice. But he had always dismissed them as mere campfire stories, the kind of stuff that gave the locals something to talk about on long, dull nights. Now, as he stared at the spectral form, he wasn't so sure. The figure grew closer, and he could make out the tattered remnants of what once might have been a dress, billowing around the shadowy legs of a woman, or was it a girl? Her face remained hidden in the gloom, but he could see the glint of eyes that seemed to burn with an unearthly light. The wail grew louder, more insistent, and it was all Mark could do to keep from turning and running. But run he did, when the figure began to ascend the stairs toward him. His heart in his mouth, he sprinted down the hall, the wail following him like the cry of a banshee. He stumbled into a room, slammed the door behind him, and leaned against it, panting. The door rattled in its frame, and he could feel the wood tremble with the force of whatever was on the other side. He knew he couldn't stay there. The room was cold, colder than anywhere else in the house, and it felt wrong. Something malevolent lurked within those four walls, something that didn't want him to leave. And so, with trembling hands, he reached for the doorknob and turned it, stepping out into the corridor once more. The wail had stopped, but the silence was somehow worse. The air was thick with the scent of something ancient and rotten, and he had the unshakable feeling that he was being watched. He continued his frantic search, hoping against hope to find some clue, some piece of evidence that would explain the horrors that he had witnessed. But as he moved deeper into the house, the shadows grew longer, the air grew colder, and the whispers grew louder. The whispers, they were all around him now, a cacophony of voices that seemed to be speaking in a language that was somehow both alien and eerily familiar. They spoke of pain and fear, of secrets long buried, and of a power that had slumbered within the mansion's walls for centuries. And then he saw it, a door at the end of the hallway, hidden by a tapestry that had been torn from its hinges. It was made of solid oak, with iron bands that gleamed dully in the moonlight filtering through the windows. It was this door, Mark realized, that the whispers were coming from. This door held the answers to the mansion's secrets, and possibly to his own fate. With trembling hands, he pushed the tapestry aside and approached the door. He reached for the handle, feeling the chill of the metal against his skin. And as he turned it, the whispers grew to a fever pitch, and the shadows around him began to coalesce into something much, much darker. The door swung open with a groan that seemed to shake the very foundations of the house, and Mark stepped into a room that was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was vast, with a high, vaulted ceiling that vanished into the darkness above. The walls were lined with ancient tomes and arcane artifacts, and in the center of the room stood a stone altar, stained with what he could only assume was blood. As he moved closer to the altar, the whispers grew clearer, forming words that he could almost understand. They spoke of a creature, an entity that had been bound to the mansion by a coven of witches long ago, a creature that craved the lifeblood of the innocent. The more he listened, the more he felt himself being drawn into the room, as if by some unseen force. And then he saw it, the source of the whispers. A shadowy figure, not unlike the one he had encountered earlier, but this one had substance, a form that was at once terrifying and mesmerizing. It was tall and gaunt, with eyes that burned like embers in the darkness. It beckoned to him, and he found himself unable to resist. Mark took another step forward, his heart racing. He knew that he was in the presence of something that was not of this world, something that could not be bargained with or reasoned with. And yet, he felt compelled to go closer, to uncover the truth that lay within this chamber of horrors. The creature opened its mouth, and the whispers grew to a scream. The air was filled with a rushing wind, and the temperature plummeted, freezing the very marrow in his bones. He knew that if he didn't act now, he would be lost to this nightmare forever. With a roar of defiance, Mark raised his flashlight and shone it directly into the creature's eyes. The room was suddenly filled with a blinding light, and the creature recoiled, its shadowy form retreating into the corner. Seizing the moment, Mark sprinted back through the house, the whispers and the cold following close on his heels. He could feel the entity's anger, its hunger, its rage. It wanted him, and it would not be denied. But he was determined to escape. As he burst through the front door, the whispers grew fainter, the cold receding like a retreating tide. He stumbled down the steps, gasping for breath, and didn't stop running until he reached the safety of his car. The mansion of Hollow Creek had revealed its secrets, but at what cost? Mark knew that he could never return to that place, could never again face the horrors that dwelt within its walls. But he also knew that he had to tell the world about what he had seen, had to expose the darkness that lurked there. And so, with a newfound sense of purpose, he sat down at his desk and began to write. The story of the mansion and the creature within would become his life's work, a tale that would be passed down through generations, a grim reminder of the price of curiosity and the true cost of uncovering the truth. But even as he wrote, the whispers lingered in the back of his mind, a constant reminder that some things are better left undisturbed. And every time he looked over his shoulder, he could almost see the shadowy figure standing there, watching him, waiting for the day he would dare to return. But even as he wrote, the whispers lingered in the back of his mind, a constant reminder that some things are better left undisturbed. And every time he looked over his shoulder, he could almost see the shadowy figure standing there, watching him, waiting for the day he would dare to return. If you enjoyed this spine-chilling tale and want more stories that haunt the mind, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, and share. And leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey into the world of horror has only just begun.